People keep asking the same things. Who should Manchester United buy this summer? You can't go anywhere on YouTube without seeing transfer speculation. But after everything we've broken down in this series on the Coach's Voice, I think the real question is, do we actually need to buy as many players as we think? Or do we need to trust what we've already got? This is Coach's Voice, part 4 of 4. This is the all coming to a head, I hope. We've looked at the defence, the midfield, the attack. What Manchester United actually needs as a team, not just names, not just the transfers, but just in general footballing terms. And now we finish the series with one area that could change everything, and that's the pathway. Because in the structure, if the structure's right, the next solution might not be in the market. Okay, we've got a lot of talented players in our youth section. It might already be there in character. I can't say it today. God, Carrington. But we always keep hearing the same names. We keep hearing about JJ, Obi, Kone while he's out on loan. But there's so many more players in there. Obviously, Shea Lacey made his debut for us. But if you follow this series and you started to see the game slightly differently, not just we buy, but why it works or doesn't work, please hit the subscribe. It's greatly appreciated by me, but you will always get this kind of content. Not just pros and cons, but what if buying that top player doesn't work? What if we went out and bought the best players and done the Galacticos? Doesn't mean we're going to be great because of the structures and things like that in place. Because this is what the channel is all about: understanding football and not just reacting to it. No clickbait, no media hype, media speculation. What I want to do is constantly reset the question. We can't replace 8 to 10 players, or can we? World Cup this year, less time on the coaching pitch. And that's not ideal going into what could potentially be our Champions League return. So what is realistic? That's one of the first things we're going to go into. Secondly, what youth actually gives you, the core selection of our youth team. Energy, legs, coachability, availability, and of course, the heart of it, Manchester United's identity of always having that player on the bench, always having someone in the match day squad who's come through that academy. So it is all about defensive stability, midfield control, attacking patterns. I get that. But there's also a risk on relying on youth. And I'd like to cover off that a bit. My background is in youth coaching. And year on year, youth academy players surprise me. They surprise me about dedication. They surprise me about some of them not even wanting to go all the way in football. You're Ben White, so there's more of them around than you think. Okay, so relying on it, you've obviously got inconsistency with youth while they're still developing, decision making. You've got to learn by making mistakes. Are Man United in an area where we can allow players into the squad to make mistakes? And of course, the pressure of the biggest club. Youth gives you potential, but structure gives you the chance to protect that potential. Kobe Mainu. Under the wrong structure, we've sat and watched him on the bench. Under Carrick's structure, he's thriving. He's currently in a very poor England team playing right now, back in the lineup. You must also buy. You can't ever not buy. Okay, so we know we can't always just go, okay, we're not buy, we're going to bring them through our youth project. We're going to bring through Kai Rooney, JJ Gabriel, Obi. We're going to bring through Tyler Frederickson, Goodwill Conkey, everyone like that. Okay, Freight. Because without the right experience around them, we're screwed. You know, you've only got to look back at the class of '92. The reason they say you don't win anything with kids is because if you bring through that many kids, most of the time people were so stuck up they didn't support them. We had leaders, and right now, do we have the leader profiles to do that? Do we have the experience in our spine to put an arm round, to criticise, and to pick them back up when they fail? Maybe not. So, 5 to 6 changes that would really maybe hurt that youth progression. So it doesn't matter how many videos you see about JJ Gabriel tearing up the youth scene. He's only got 11 goals in the under 18s league. So he's not doing as much as you think, but the goals he scored, my God, they are great goals. So hit and miss. So you do have to balance it, okay? And it's not youth or buying. It's knowing where each one fits in and that progression forward. Don't forget, we've got great youth players out on loan. Amass. Collier's obviously picked up his knocks, but most of our loanees don't ever make it. And then of course we also make mistakes with our loanees. Ahmad, great success story. Name me another one. That's something I challenge you guys. Come back and name me someone in the last 10 years that went out on loan as a young player from Manchester United and has come back to perform in the Manchester United starting 11 on a match day. Because I can't think of any off the top of my head as I ask this question right now. The only one who came close, James Garner, and we messed that one up. Okay, that's the one that I can think of. And maybe you'll come back with Vilanga. We loaned him, but when we sold him without playing him again. So let's see who anyone else brings up. And then of course I'm going to like close the whole series up, and we're going to go back over everything that we sort of covered, and just hopefully just bring it all together before we start looking back at Manchester United out of this 20 days without football and getting back and looking at the full philosophy of the coach's voice, my voice, and that my philosophy behind United Lens, and of course how I feel Manchester United gets back to the top without having to shout about X, Y, or Z names. We just look at what they can and can't offer. Okay, so that's how this final show is going to be structured. Let's jump into the chat. First off, we've got Danny here straight away. I like Ajay, early days yet though. Yeah, VTech. Next season, we probably sell him knowing us. Yeah, okay, so VTech, he can't come back into the starting 11 currently because he's probably not going to play. Our keepers are probably one of the ones. Henderson, again, didn't really play for the starting 11, but definitely had some great loans. Let's go with outfield players. Keepers, I think, are always been treated as a separate entity because it's very hard. You can only have one of them on the pitch at a time compared to playing players out of position. But Danny, great to have you here. All of you watching on X, if you can jump on over, subscribe, like the video, amazing. If not, just leave comments on X. Share the video through X. Greatly appreciated. And all of you here currently watching, give me a big thumbs up on the video. I'll be more than happy. Okay, so let's get into Manchester United's youth. And I'm going to start at the 21s. Okay. You may get me, I may start referring to them as 23s because at my level, we refer to them as 23s. United and the Premier League or PL2 is 21. So I do in my head get confused between my job and what I'm talking about. Yeah. So yes, let's start. So the current squad of 21s, it's huge. Okay. But I want to understand. I don't want to tell you to suck at eggs. So please, anyone watching any of this series, don't ever think I'm telling you to suck at eggs. But there are also going to be people who maybe don't understand. Okay. So in the 21s, if you're getting close to the maximum age, there is a very good chance you're being let go by the club. Okay. The way youth football works, you play almost a year or 2 years under. So if you look at our 18s, the average age is 16, 17. They don't tend to be 18 unless they turn closer to the end of the season. The 21s will be last year's 18s. So if you look at it, we have a lot of 18, 19-year-olds in the 21 squad. And we've still got some 17-year-olds playing up, especially in defensive areas, because that's something we're lacking. Imrov, who was superb for the 18s last year, plays left wing for the 21s. But just on in general, most of it's our 18s. Where, if I was to go through our entire squad, I would expect most Manchester United players to, fans, not players. Most Man United fans only to know 2 or 3 names from the 21s. And you'll be surprised how many there are. So you've got Dermot Mee, goalkeeper, currently 23, out on loan, or has done loan, superb keeper. Obviously, when we look at keepers, I might just skip keepers because they know they're going to be second choice. Vitek, currently out on loan, definitely our best goalkeeper. And we've had some very good ones that we keep selling, as Danny's just alluded to here. So I'm going to skip them, but I'm going to look at our defenders. And it's quite funny to look at because we have a lot of right backs and left backs. Okay. Now, everyone knows about Diego Leon. Obviously, we bought him and he's playing there. Aidan Heaven still plays for the 21s from time to time. Goodwill Kakonki, you've seen him on the bench. He's actually only 17. So he's playing 18s, 21s, and getting called up to sit on the bench for the first team ahead of a lot, and I mean a lot, of defenders in the 21s. With the exception of, say, a J3, who is a 21-year-old centre back. These players are all the ones that you and me would go, why? Well, if he's not good enough, why don't we loan him out? Why can't we sell him? Why can't we get money for him? Because if we don't put him out there, no one's going to know about him, right? Because you can only have 11 players on the pitch. We got Jaden, I'm going to butcher his name, Nawashi, another 17-year-old, Albert Mills, Yul Halef, all great defenders. No real set position currently, and I like that in youth football. And then we're chucking Harry Amass, currently out on loan. Okay. Amass should be coming into the first team next year, I think, no matter what. I think you do your loan spells, especially if he gets promoted, and we learn from the mistake of the Ghana and getting rid of him straight after. Let's give him, see if he can break into the first team. If he gets his chance, can he take it? Yes, we've signed Diego Leon. He's still only 18. You know, and if he sees someone come back off loan and go in there, does that push him on more? Or does he bottle it? And if he bottles it, then maybe he's not a Manchester United player. And right now in the youth, and it's weird talking about the 21s and referring to them as youth, because most of us forget youth. A youth player stops at 18. Okay. And I've never been a fan of the 21s. I prefer reserve team football. I think it's more beneficial that we have a larger first team squad and they play with the best young players and they grow up idolising these players. So put them in there and let's see them raise their game. Midfielders, Morehouse, Fletcher, both Fletchers, and Freights, they've all sat on the bench at some point this season. Morehouse is at 20. I'm expecting him to leave at the end of the season. Hopefully get a move to League Two. If he can go League One, even better. I don't think he'll get a Championship move. So maybe he should have been in and around the squad a lot more this season. He probably has been in the training, but when everyone sees the training videos of our youth, and all we hear is the same name, JJ, JJ, JJ. Well, there's others around there. There's others at the back. Freights is, for me, for you, the younger audience, he's your regen. He's your David Beckham regen. Set pieces, everything like that. Oh my God, he's good. He's great. And funny enough, I was just about to say, out on loan, we have Dan Gore still, who he's had a few knocks, and obviously Toby Collier in the midfield as well. Although he's not a 21, That is a player that's been out on loan, going through those. I'd like to see Freights out on loan next year. I'd like to see the Fletchers out on loan. Fitzgerald, we've got rid of. So they're your 21s, but again, we're not really seeing them making many minutes. And I feel that the 21s is a very make or break scenario. Okay, I think if you're not pushing for a first team spot at 18, 19, you're at the wrong club, and maybe you should be looking to a full-time move away, drop down a couple of leagues. Look at some of the top players for us: Smalling, Vardy, Bowen. They come up the leagues. You can be good enough and not make it, drop down, and if you believe in yourself, you can come back. And Manchester United players generally do that. You can go through Savage, Drinkwater, both got titles to their names. And there's plenty of others. Literally, I'm sure chat, you can just keep reeling them off at me. Players who have come through the United Academy, never played for Man United, and had amazing careers. So in the 21s, we've still got forwards. And this is probably the one where I feel they have the highest chance of breaking into Manchester United next year. We all know about Obi. We all know about Shea Lacey. The one who most people don't hear much about, and I think it's not entirely fair, is Amir Igmarov. Igmarov. I can't say his name. The younger brother. Superb last year. Mantato, we saw make his debut, and he sort of maybe was overwhelmed by the situation as well. But you got Michelin Sharp, Scottish 20-year-old. Again, probably let go. He's going to be your next Hugh Gill, someone like that. Should be out scoring goals in League Two. But some of these players want to fight and believe they're better off and just living the dream at Manchester United. And there's nothing wrong with that. So Igmarov, Danny just said, was injured for a while. And I think he's a really good player. Very good number 10, I think, is probably a better thing for him, or secondary striker. More like a who could I could see similarities to him to sort of like a Cole Palmer in a way. The way he sort of finds the gaps, picks up the ball, happy to link up and just come in, ghost it in at the back post and finishing off balls across the box. Very, very good talent, as chat is saying. But he's also very small. I think he's Messi-esque in stature, not in ability. Please do not quote me trying to link him to being a Messi, but just not great. But if I look at the key stats from the 21s, you've got Jack Fletcher leading the way with assists. I'm not really surprised. Freights has been more 18s than he has 21s this season. Next season will be his main season in the 21s. Shea Lacey, 8 goals and 1 assist. Obi, 9 goals. Very surprised at Obi's contribution to the first team and lack of minutes. I'm not going to lie. He should have had more. Then you got Jacob Devaney and Jaden Camerson. Both very good performers, having a high average rating, which is very hard to do so far in this season, of above 7. When you're highly criticised in 21s, because you could come up against first team players. They have to play in the Cup against League Two and conference teams. So, our 21s are very, very good. We're second in the league to Chelsea, game in hand, and can come back. But Man United run their youth setup totally different to a lot of teams. Okay. We do chop and change. We will drop all our 17, 18-year-olds from the 21s when we're in the FA Youth Cup, and they will play the oldest players in the Youth Cup to go out there and win it, right? Quite rightly so. It's your only chance to play in the FA Youth Cup. You only get to your 18 and you don't qualify. Go win it. The other players have got no chances to come. So how many of our 21 do you think should be in and around the squad? If I was to take 5. Would you be happy with that? From this, I'll read my 5 out currently. I'm not going to include Aiden Heaven because he is, in my eyes, he's a first team player. But I would say Fredrickson probably has ruled himself out, but Goodwill Kakonki is right there. But the defender I'm going to go for is obviously Harry Amass because he's out on loan. He should come back and be around the squad in the summer and ready for next season. I think for the Fletchers need to go out on loan, and maybe Freight should be the one in and around the squad. I think that might give him something extra, especially if we've still got a Bruno working closer with him day in and day out. The creative players, and that he's got the delivery. Now can we work his vision and he would bring that aspect of the game. Only Lacey for me has to be in and around that bench. We got, what is it? 5 subs. Is it 9 on the bench? 7 on the bench? It's up to 9, isn't it, in the FA Cup, I believe. For me, that has to be a thing. They have to be in and around at least one or both in the match day squads. Whether we go out and buy another striker, I don't mind. Shay Lacey, give Ahmad a run for his money. Gives us the options. Obi, I don't want to run the risk of losing him. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, the internet's breaking up. There we go. Signal back. Thank you for that, Danny, for letting me know. That's a little bit worrying, but thank God for recording, say. So, might be scrambled live, but it won't be when it runs back. Right, so let's move on to our under 18s. And I know when we talk youth, most of you are expecting me to be talking about probably 2 players, and I'm probably going to surprise you. A lot of our under 18s, it's very hard to refer to them. They're probably 16. We've got 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and 17-year-olds. Okay, the 18-year-olds are literally, if you were to look them up now, they've turned. We're getting close to the end of the season. They've hit 18. Same as my players. They're now 18. They weren't at the start. The goalkeepers, again, we've got 4. We rotate them constantly. There was a lot said about, I'm trying to think, was it Heath? I think it was Heath. Was the one ball playing goalkeeper. Seriously, it a bit too much smoke. Lack of Man United news, and we started blowing smoke up a goalkeeper's backside. He wasn't. Youth players are in the under 18s. I know Danny watches it. I know Sean, who sometimes you'll see contributing to the show from United First Everything. He watches most of the Man United youth team games. So do I. The speed of the game is so much slower. You can pick a pass easier. So even for a ball-playing goalkeeper, trying to do that with a Haaland sprinting at you is a hell of a lot harder than a half-hearted 15, 16, 17-year-old attacker running at you. Trust me, it just is. So a lot of people see things. Same as when I talk about JJ Gabriel. When he smacks it in the top corner from outside the box, if it's unstoppable, it don't matter who the goalkeeper is. But please do not be expecting him to do that for Manchester United's first team. Okay. But most of these 17-year-olds will be in the 21s next year, or should be there or thereabouts. Goodwill Kakonki, I've already said, he's in all 3 squads. I like Overy, I like Plunkett, Jaden Nasrari, another one been playing in the 21s, and he's been in and out really. And McCormack's 16, and he's one I would say currently as a defender at Manchester United. Keep an eye on him. I quite like his style. I'm trying to think if that was the video I saw where someone referred to him as a cross between Harry Maguire and Martinez, but he's just commanding. But he could have had an early growth spurt, and he might not grow again. Okay, so that I needs to come in there. He's very big, very broad, very powerful. Doesn't mind carrying the ball forward, and has got good pass on him. So there's a defender we could think about mixing in over the next 12 to 18 months into the first team. Again, building for the future. But where we're at, if we go back to the first video, we could lose. Well, we won't now, actually. Since the first video, Harry Maguire's been potentially given a 2-year contract. We're waiting for confirmation. But Martinez and Delet, and we've already got Heaven and Euro. Can we have another youngster come up currently? Interesting way of looking at it. That's 4 centre backs, 5 centre backs. We add in Harry Maguire. Do we want a 6th youngster in there? In my eyes, yes, but the manager might not. Okay, he might prefer to bring up, like we said, a right back, a young right back, and see what they've got. Midfielders. I've already spoken about Freights. Definitely the key player in the under-18s. You know, the free kicks that boys scored this year, some of them are absolutely unreal. Again, doesn't play all games. Very strict rules in youth football, in the Premier League with PL2, about having to have 7 days clear either side if you're in a squad. You can't play for both teams in 1 week. Ironically, doesn't apply to someone like Kai Rooney. He can play for the under-16s and then play for the under-18s, but you can't play 18s, 21s, and first team in 1 week. McGevy, superb. Most of you have become aware, I believe, of JC, Carrick's son. He's only 15. He is playing, I feel, above his level currently. And let's be fair, let's call a spade a spade. There is always favouritism when it comes to the manager's son. So there's always a chance he's just going to be up there a little bit more. And you know what? Good luck to him, because he's still got to produce. And let's have a look at his game time. It's not as many minutes, but again, he's only going to benefit. And if he turns out being anything like his dad, great. You know, that's superb for Man United, right? Danny's saying here he'd likes a Jai, absolutely, physically, yeah, ready to go in 6 months, maybe have a look at pre-season. Exactly, if they want to put him on a development program from now through the summer, you know, working on, I don't know, it could be muscle mass or anything like that. But I feel you're right. But he needs to be bashed around a bit in training. So let's get him up and finish the end of the season, maybe with the first team. And he's looking forward to watching Ozaro or Zuro. I can never pronounce that name. In the 21s next season. Exactly. It's, can he do that next step? I believe he can. Would you prefer to see him play in the 21s, or would you prefer to have him out on loan, say like what Kone is currently? I've not even mentioned Kone. And there's a reason for that. There's a lot of reporting on Kone's loan at the moment that is very misleading. So I don't want to comment on it, because it's like some people are saying he's a bit arrogant. He's not getting the game time. He's gone there a bit of a Billy Big Bollocks. Like, look at me, I'm a Man United player, and had fallen out with players. And then some people are saying actually he works really hard, and it's about, you know, learning the hard way, biding his time and taking his moments. But that's why I brought up Kone as thing. Zero is better than Kone from what people have seen. But it's, Danny, as you've heard me say, and you'll hear others say, it's a sample size. You've got to look at the players he's up against, and I only try and pay notice to the players that they are willing to put in the cup competition, because that for me is the biggest thing. How are you doing against a big lead to 32, 33-year-old who will, hey, who do you think you are? You might be quicker than me. Bang, you ain't now. You got a dead leg. That, how are they coping with that? It is part of your learning curve as a youth footballer. Okay. Now on to the great ones, the forwards. Bradbury, 17. He's only got 3 goals this season. He's more of a target man. Sort of does the Obi kind of role from last year, without doing the turning and scoring. Obviously, Obi still plays in the 18s from Igmarov, Mantaro. They're only playing the FA Youth Cup, coming down. spending most of their time with the 21s. But we now obviously have a certain Kai Rooney at 16 coming off the bench, Barbosa at 16. He looks like he could be a handful. Probably still needs a bit more confidence. Ajay, who I really like, left-sided attacker, reminds me very much of the young Marcus Rashford, not the Rashford we had in recently, but the one who broke through into the United team. Very direct, very cut in, take you on, quick feet, and something at the end of it. Most importantly, something at the end of it, whether it be a cross or a shot. Mantato, disappointed. I really like him when he came in. And then, of course, the one you all want me to say is JJ Gabriel. Now, I'm going to be quite critical of JJ. I say it like I know him, but it's just easier to say I come out with other JJs, but anyone who's called JJ, you can't help get in your head if you're my age or maybe a bit older and just think of a Kocha. So I have to be careful. But I think he's got great feet. I think he is very, very talented. Can go left, can go right, can use both feet. Has scored some absolute terrific goals. Okay, so did Obi last year, and Obi has struggled in the 21s this year, and we were all saying how great he was. Get him on the pitch instead of Rasmus, then we don't create for him, and his career's stalled. I would ask for my point of view and my channel. I will not be blowing smoke towards JJ. He's 15. One injury, one lack of growth spurt, one body. You know, if his body mass doesn't change, we don't know how he's going to develop. I always think back to a Scott McTominay, who was a scrawny United player at 16. By the time he made it to the first team, he's 6'4", and totally different kind of thing, right? But also JJ is very, very selfish. He needs to get rid of that. Now, players of his age are taught to love the ball. Everyone get a ball, get dribbling, do your tricks, do things like love the ball. If you want to be Chelsea, get in a circle around the ball. Respect the ball. But I feel, and this is hard to say as a former striker myself, there's all right of being selfish in the box, taking the shot. But I see him carrying the ball, Ronaldo-esque, and not finding the pass. And we all know how that panned out. It took a lot of teammates having a go at him to go, no, we need an end product. We need you not to look so good all the time and just lay the simple pass off, and then they don't know what you're going to do. Right now, if you give JJ Gabriel the ball, and I was coaching, I'm telling my defender, don't engage him. Let him drive at you, jockey him, and let him run out of space. That's an aspect I'm hoping at 15. Everyone's expecting him to all of a sudden be training, in the match day squads next year because he's going to be eligible. If we do that, we run a really high risk of ruining his career. The days of Rooney, the days of Milner, Owen, they're sort of gone. You don't see so many of them coming through unless they're of a certain build. And now that's sort of what people look at. Are they physically able? It's wrong. I don't agree with it, but it's certainly what the main thing with sports science. Are they physically able to take the load of the Premier League? Well, do you know what? If it's me, there's only one way to find out, isn't there? Lace your boots up, you're on. And if you don't cut it, then all of a sudden people stop asking for him to be played every game. And he goes back to the 21s, but then that can have a adverse effect on his career. So I would ask for everyone sort of takes a massive pinch of salt. You're going to see these massive channels, United Stand, FUTV, Stratford Paddock, to name a few, running with those stories because they have multiple shows a day, okay, and they need content for everyone. What I say is, pay your £26 for the year or whatever it is for MUTV. Get on YouTube. Now Man United have put most of the under 18s actually free to watch on YouTube. Start watching him yourself, but criticise him. Not in a bad way, but no, mate, you should have passed that one. Watch him as if he was playing for the Manchester United first team and tell me, when you watch him, is that acceptable? But don't just do it for him, do it for all players. 21s, 18s. Doesn't matter if they're 15 and they've been put in that team, you've got to play to a standard. Manchester United youth football has always had a standard. And if they can't achieve that standard, then we have every right to go out and buy players. But if you're achieving that standard, I feel that we should always have 5 out of our 25-man squad being constantly changed. I know we can't do it for Europe. You know, we only get the two windows to do our squad, but constantly changed, experiencing. Are you cutting it? You've had a run here. Go back now. Show me what you can do in this area, in that area of your relevant team. So I hope that covers off the youth. This is a slightly longer episode because I'd like to come now around full circle. We've talked about the young players who we have, and I hope I've mentioned some names. You're thinking, well, I haven't heard about him. I'll have a look. Please do go have a look at these players, but please just don't YouTube clip them, because you don't see any of the bad. Yeah, just remember that you don't see the bad when you go search a player, and you need to see the bad with the good. It's just not about all of their skills and everything they've done against potentially a 15-year-old. One of the things I used to say about Obi, if you watched him last year shoving players out the way, we don't know how old that player was. And if we've got 15-year-olds playing, so have other teams, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So we've got 5-foot players and we've got 6'4" players. It's a big difference at that age. But let's go back full circle. Manchester United, we need a strong, structured defence. You've got that in part 1, where we went over that. You've got to look at what we can accept in our defence out of the players we have, and what we really do need to replace. I feel that left back, as much as maybe we need to replace, I feel Amass should be given a shot. And it's a gamble. I get that. Diego Leon, Amass, Luke Shaw, because I don't think we can sell Shaw. Okay. And then, of course, we can throw, can Dorgu do a job there? Okay. Right back. Right back, we'll stick with the 2, Dallo and Mazraoui. For me, Mazraoui obviously starts, but I'm not the manager, and he seems to choose something different. And that's where I feel that maybe we need to start looking at right-sided players from the 21s and the 18s, get them up training. You know, they're going to be younger, more energy in the tank, I would hope. And maybe that's beneficial to us, okay? Then we move into the midfield. Now, we all know there's one guaranteed thing that's going to need fixing, the Casemiro replacement. For me, we need a leader. I hope you all feel the same, because when I see people in my chat on other things, we need a new Roy Keane, we need a leader. We need someone that's going to hold on to those players, pull them in when they need to tighten up and condense space. Casemiro does do that. He does it in his own way. His English got better, and I think we're seeing the beneficial with Kobe Mainoo. Wingers and Kobe. What else have we got? Ugarte. Most of us would move on. This is where I'm saying maybe a Freites, maybe a Kone comes back on loan. He's probably going to have promises made to him about time, minutes, by going out on loan. And there's obviously going to be a big transfer. I don't know who it's going to be. All I care about is they offer me power, pace, and leadership. That's what's needed in our midfield. I would prefer 2, because I don't think Kobe Mainoo is still ready to play a full season for Manchester United. I think he's got so much to learn. So he needs someone challenging him for his place. And that's a box to box, progressive of the ball, press resistant, can link up, move in as a secondary 10. move on to Bruno Fernandes, the tip of the midfield. A lot of talk about Fernandes. A lot of talk about Fernandes. Does he stay? Does he go? Um, I would hope that if we get the structure right behind Fernandes, we see him more capable of just sitting in the 10 role, doing a lot less running around headless chicken style. Although he has got better under Carrick of doing that. Obviously, there's a massive link with Cole Palmer at the moment of me filming this, who I see as the only replacement probably for Bruno Fernandes. For me, he's the closest we could get with the experience needed. Still a massive gamble, probably 150 million. Can we afford that? Let me know. Wingers, left side. Left side. There, I was asked a question over a month ago: would I sell Dalot and keep Rashford, or vice versa? I can imagine a manager making the choice to keep Rashford because right now we don't know if he is going to go to Barcelona or anyone else, and it's probably a lot of the biggest fears for Manchester United fans, right? Oh, can we still get the Rashford deal over the line? But Dorgu left. Cunha, he's getting more disciplined out there. I like him out there to beat a player, but we all know he wants to be inside. He wants to be in that 8-10 role and run at the centre backs and have a striker in front of him to follow in off his shot. Ahmad and Bumo, right hand side, pretty much covered. Shea Lacey, get on the bench, come in, show us what you got. Danny says here, Palmer's a pass for him. I see what I come back to me on this. You see Palmer pass for this season, but if Bruno left this season, would you take him? Would he still be a pass? I was just talking about Palmer as a out and out like for like replacement. I like the way he plays. I like his temperament, and I just think we get a different Palmer for United as we would Chelsea. Injury worry for me too could be another mount. Well, we're always going to worry about Chelsea players. Let's be fair. We haven't really had that good a success taking players from Chelsea and their injuries because we tend to take them either too late in their career, Mata or Matic, and then obviously Mason Mount, superb player. We all know that. But can't stay fit. But Palmer, yeah, I think Palmer's record's okay. But moving away from that, up top, I want to see Obi next season. I want to see us, if we can, go out and buy an experienced striker. I'm talking 27 plus. I would take a 30-year-old with ease. I spoke on previous channels that I would have taken Jamie Vardy for this season to help with our younger strikers before we even got Sesko in. I was like a Vardy with a Hoyland, a Vardy with an Obi, or anyone else coming through. Teach him the tricks of the trade, the dark arts, something like that. But we have to have some. Xerxes obviously going out the door. We can't keep him at all. So for me, anyone who has managed to get to adult football and you can't tell me what position they play, they're not a top footballer. They're a showboater. They're probably a better being a big fish in a small pond. Drop down a league, go back to a lesser league, go back playing the Dutch league, something like that. Very similar to like an Anthony. Dropping him down to the Spanish league is his level. Premier League wasn't his level, and the Dutch league was too good for. So Xerxes, yeah, move him on. But yeah, I want Obi in there. So for me, there you can see there's certain young players I want in and around the squad. That's me. And I think they've earned the chance. I feel for someone like Carrick, if we keep him as a manager, and it is an if, we haven't got a clue what's going on. If we're not interviewing managers right now, we're doing something wrong because you've got to be doing it, even if you're looking at keeping Carrick, because he might say, "Do you know what? I did say I only want to go to the end of the season." And maybe there's stuff behind things. Jason Wilcox, get him out the door. People like that. So he could have fallen out. We didn't back him in January. So there's already one big negative with him in the club when he came in. Just because he smiled and waved, boys, like the penguins from Madagascar, doesn't mean he was necessarily happy. So I hope that my understanding of how I see positional play and the traits of each position will help you understand when people are linking certain transfers, how they might or might not work with the players we already have. I hope that this series is more of a reference point for you. Do you know what? Let's go back. I swear I've heard that somewhere before. Actually, you know what? Mark had a point. He didn't name the player, but he did say, this is what we're looking for. He did say that if you get all of this right, at having someone as inexperienced as Lemons in goal at 23 years of age, why do you think he looks so calm? Why? And he's adding that calmness through, and we create that spine, and how important that is. I love having conversations about football. I hate being dictated to who we can or can't have or do. Okay. Big up, Sean. Evening. Thank you for joining. I am a firm believer in youth at the right time, but I am totally against a lot of channels that will just try and persuade you that the next big thing's coming from our youth academy. We have like 1 in 10 success rate coming through from our youth academy. Okay, we have a player on the bench all the time, but we don't have a different player every week. We don't have. We had Garnacho, we had Kobe Mainu come through, Elanga, Rashford. I'm not reeling off a massive list. Do you see what I mean? We have a hell of a lot more failures than we have winners. So Obi was last year's hot topic. Now it's JJ, but we're looking at under 18s. Well, how's he done in the 21s? Why hasn't he been called up to the first team? Because everything JJ's doing now, as I just explained, Obi was doing last year. It's about progression. It's about every time you make that step, do you put your shoulders back and say, I'm here, I'll take it? But or do you get an ego? Sean's just mentioned Freights. Absolutely, I totally agree. I think Freights is the next one coming through. I've just mentioned previous that basically in my eyes, Freights is a David Beckham regen. And if he can put in the running like that as in adult, I think that's what it is. And yeah, this is what we've been explaining. None of them are quite ready. So Sean, for those who are seeing Sean's comments coming up here, United versus everyone is Sean. He watches all the youth games like I do, and he quite do videos a lot about prospects, but he uses the right terminology. Prospects. It's about being ready at the right time when you're being asked, and not being put there too early. Not being, it's okay to go train with them. Doesn't mean he's going to play with them. It's about, okay, let's see where you're at. And as I just said, now go back. Can you do that in the 21s? No, I can't see him doing it in 21s. We'll keep him in the 18 then. He is only 15. Do you see what I mean? So it's not about progressing. And I know he can't play for the 21s before anyone throws that comment up, because that's still the Premier League restrictions. Premier League and PL2 have the same restrictions. He has to be in school year 11 to play, and he will only be in that next year. So it's very hard to juggle. Man United have let this slip over 15 years. Our youth into our bench, into our progression through to our first team. It's been really only because players have been out injured and we've had injury crisis that Kobe Mainu came through, Garnacho came through. Are we holding our hands up and saying Garnacho is a success? He played. He scored goals. He had vital moments. Puskas Awards. We sold him because he's a twat to Chelsea because he got the ego. What I'm worried about JJ. What I'm worried about Obi. What I'm worried about Kone. I'm worried about all three of them having a Garnacho in them. Whereas a Kobe Mainu, so down to earth, so calm, that's where I see Freights. That's where I see Kai Rooney. those players come through. Maybe an Aiden Heaven as well. But I know he didn't come through our academy, but very calm, very driven player. But this is the thing. We are now almost 50 minutes into the video. What I'm trying to say is, if we don't give these youth players the chance, we can't just go out and sell. You can't sell them without giving them first team football or very good exposure, because that's how you make decent money off them. If we get through in a Champions League early and we can blood some of the better 21s, amazing. You can ask for a better transfer price, like Man City do, like Chelsea do, like Liverpool have done. It's all about that rotation. It's an opinion based thing with youth. Okay, so go on your opinion and what you think of it. That's sort of how I portray watching youth football. There's no right or wrong, but there is a right and wrong time. And if you allow for it to say, do you know what, now might not be the time for him to come up, and you add that into your factor of watching these young players, then you might see him in totally a different light. If you've got your own children, you can't tell me they, even when they played football or any other sport, or even when they go to school, they perform the same way day in, day out. They don't. You might think they do. You might want to, tell yourself you've got the next Messi. But the fact is, you have to be honest with your eyes and not allow the media bias and other channels who are just doing it for clicks. If they can't give you a negative, don't believe their positives. So one thing I was told as a young kid, because for every action there's an equal reaction, right? So and if I wanted to push you in anywhere to do scouting reports, it's Sean from United versus everybody, and then obviously I would say Stretford Paddock would be another one. But they're very stats driven, and stats can be very misleading if you don't understand them. Let's just see what people are saying. Evening Daily Clips has popped in, chucking a few emojis in there. Not too many, I hope, mate. This is where the data falls short in scouting. Can't measure the XT, expected twat factor. It is. It's true. If you blow too much smoke up any child's backside, I'm not talking about football here. I'm just saying in general, they get a big head and they make mistakes and they believe their own hype. And the world we live in now, where everything is video, social media, everything like that, you can't have it. And you have to try and stay grounded. And it's the most grounded players that make it through. Yeah, here we go. Great shout, Sean. Ennis looked like the next big academy product last year. Don't know anymore. The step up to first team football is huge. Yeah, and look at all the ones who have gone out on loan. Your Hugh Gills, things like that. They were scoring plenty of goals in the youth, 18s, 21s. Go out on loan, nothing. Fail. Because you don't get kicked. You don't get smacked around. You don't get a random elbow getting thrown at your head when going up for a header in League Two, like you would in Premier League Two. These are actual real facts, guys. I talk about football as if it's a violent game in the lower leagues. No, it's a determined game. I've got friends playing in those leagues. I know how they play. I know what they come up against. You're stamping on your feet at corners, all the dark arts. It's not just Atletico Madrid. It's in the lower leagues, and that's where it's almost fun to watch because VAR doesn't destroy it. So something might go on off the ball. You have to get up and get on with it, and that's where young players can't handle it. And it's learning to handle that, like your Wayne Rooney's, like your Ahmad, going and playing in Scotland and playing in the Championship. Jesus Christ, he came up against some different styles of football. Okay, and it's the better for him in his drive and ambition. Let's just hope he can learn to get a brain and make the right choices, because that's where he's lacking. He's got everything he needs. He just needs to make the right choices. And yes, there's Sean. We've been talking about this a lot about the good players. I would only bring 5 young players into the United squad, and if we don't buy the right players, which this whole series of Coach's Voice has been about, we don't buy leaders, um, maturity. That's probably the best word I can use, maturity. Then we're screwed. Do you know what I mean? Because if you don't learn to be a good pro, you won't be a good pro. It can be that simple. Not everyone's like Kai Rooney has Wayne Rooney behind him. Carrick's son, Carrick, Fletcher's boys, the dad. Some of these boys are coming up, and they're doing it for their family. They're doing it to give them a better life. But with that brings a lot of pressure for some people just wouldn't even be able to comprehend. Pressure of having to support your family, or if I fail, my family fails. It's a very hot topic in psychology for young players, that where you have to set their expectations. Do you know what? 1%, mate. 1% make it from each academy. So we can't all get there. And it's about tempering it. Sean says, what happened to Italy? It was 1-1 last I heard. Obviously, doing this, I've not been watching. And I'm staying away from the England game, because if I find out we've lost 1-0 to Japan, I'm probably not going to sleep tonight, because I'll be laughing so much. FYI, I don't watch international football. But that pretty much does the whole series, guys, of Coach's Voice. This last episode's obviously been 2 episodes in one, where we're looking back at the whole thing. Please give me your feedback. If you've managed to watch all 4 episodes, I really, really appreciate it. It was trying something different while we haven't had any games. Like I say, understanding the pros and cons of a professional footballer, and what jobs we need as a professional club. And whether we believe it or not, Manchester United is still a professional club. It's just we haven't had as many professional players as we just mentioned 30 seconds ago. I will be getting back to doing normal videos, reviews, previews over the next 2 weeks. We obviously will have games coming up. Not quite sure what I've got coming for you. What we got this week? Friday, Sunday videos. I'll still be there about 9. We might do a Q&A. I like my Q&As, but it requires you guys turning up on those days. But if you've got any ideas, get in the community tab. On United Lens, go to the YouTube page. There's a community tab. Click in there. You can have your say. You can ask questions in there. I'll always come back to them. Ideas, questions. Danny uses it, Bilal. I might have to do a short video. I'm waiting for Sean's new challenge to come my way. He last one was crossbar challenge. I've got a funny feeling this is going to be if it's keepy uppies, we might be in trouble. Because with my big flippers, size 13 feet, it's not the easiest thing to do, keepy uppies. But if it's first touch, I'll be laughing. But yes, please give me your ideas, guys. I'm going to end the video now, and we will get back to the normal United Lens in the coming days. But thank you very much. And if you can smack a subscribe and a like on your way out, greatly appreciated. But for now, goodbye, guys.